Hello, everybody, and welcome to This Week in X for Marauders, issue number 22, out on the 21st of July, 2021. We want to give you a content warning. This issue contains some plot elements that are very prominent about domestic abuse, domestic violence, and sexual assault. We're going to be talking about all of these necessarily. So if those are trigger points for you, this is not an episode for you to listen to, and we look forward to seeing you again on the future of This Week in X. Marauders number 22 has some really heavy plots in it. And I kind of don't want to go light and frothy about this because I don't think that you can. I think it's irresponsible. And I think we've got some really important things to discuss. Unfortunately, this week, Freya has lost her voice. Much like some of the themes in this comic. So she's here to maybe give us some guidance, and she might write some notes to us that one of us will read out so that you can be a part of the discussion with Freya as well. But unfortunately, we will not have her contributing her voice directly, which is a major bummer when it comes to an issue like this one. For Marauders number 22, we'll get our initial reactions, and then we'll go around and discuss the content of the issue, starting with Tyler.
I mean, coming out of the Hellfire Gala, this issue deals a little bit with the fallout, and there is a feeling of like some sort of forward momentum. I am, however, not sure if featuring two somewhat parallel plots of men abusing women is the right momentum. I mean, I like Lolly's art and do not really mind Jensen's art, but I kind of don't really want to give any rating for this issue.
Harry.
This book's garbage. It's a 1 out of 5.
Freya, do you have anything you'd like us to know?
Why?
Freya says, why? I mean, I share both of those sentiments, but I'll try to give us something all three of those sentiments, but I'll try to give us something a little bit substantial that we can jump off of. Freya talks a lot about the currency or the economy of women's suffering on this program, and that often in order for plot to have value or for a woman to have value in the plot, she is given this modicum of suffering. Now, you can say, well, fiction is suffering. All characters suffer in the name of fiction, and that's true to a degree. But when Freya and Tyler's litmus tests that we use often on people of all sorts of walks of life that are outside of the majority of the comic characters here. Of course, women globally are a majority, people of color globally are a majority, but in X-Men, it's white men. The test that we use is, could we paste this plot onto one of those white male characters, and would it kind of come off in the same way? Here, clearly not. And I think that then you have to ask the question, well, is it important to be telling these stories? And the place I want to start us, and pretty much the only conversation we'll be having today, is no, I don't think it's important to tell these stories, because you've taken two characters that were fascinating on their own, that you could have done interesting things with rather than framing that in abuse. And you, as a male-presenting author of this book with a largely male-identifying publicly creative team, have chosen to give us an issue that's all about reframing these characters in the abuse that they've suffered, because, as Freya likes to point out, that's the story economy. I reject that. It's not why I'm reading X-Men comics. It's why X-Men comics have been terrible in the past, and why I thought that there was something better now that we're in the age of Krakoa. And I think coming off of having had X Factor number 10, having had Web X number 3 in the past month, it really makes me wonder if the right people are working on these comics, not only creatively, but editorially. I get that X-Men's a license for Marvel to print money, but is this the money that they want? Because I'm done giving them mine. I'll turn it over. Ding, 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 says Freya. So I'll turn it over to the crew.
This is just cheap garbage. I really was like kind of blown away reading this because, during the gala issue of Marauders, when they unlock something in the Verendi kid's mind,
Freya was excited.
I was like, I'm curious what's going to happen. This is interesting. And the fact that what Duggan chose to write is the most rote, offensive, reductive trash that I thought we were done with like 15 years ago or more. Like, it just like aggravating doesn't even begin to put it into words. It's just kind of bullshit. I really, and also I've talked about this before, more being just tired of that this book takes these Hellfire kids who I know no one really likes, but like, you know, they are very, very light, goofy characters. And the fact that you want to take them seriously, or you want to try to make them more grounded. And I've almost tried to plot it in the past, but all you can think of to do is like this $3 abuse storyline.
Yeah, this whole like abuse creates abusers. Like,
yeah, like this is what you had. This is like what you're gonna have me spend money on. Like,
I wouldn't expect this from the worst publisher out there. You know,
that's and yeah, why did exactly like the fact that like
pick another character.
It's just
why does the girl have to be the one? Is what
I know.
For us.
I have less to, and you're right, Freya. Like I have less to say about the Klaus Janson segment because I don't know that character.
Mhm.
I just found that to be like offensive and it's stupid in its own way, but this just felt like utterly like stupid. I hate to like that almost sounds like not mean up, but it's just like a stupid story choice. It's insulting to us the readers.
Mhm.
And it's insulting that this is the kind of thing you're introducing 20 issues into your book. I mean, there was a time where we were saying this was the best X book in the line. This is just embarrassing garbage. Yeah, I hated this.
Tyler?
If it is straight on this story, I would 100% like agree with you guys. But I'm wondering here if this is not a trap that Wilhelma and the Hellfire kids set for the Cuckoos.
Oh, screw that. I will light fire to at least one expensive X-Men comic book if that's the actual thing.
I understand that there's like a case to be made, like wait for the story to play out, but we are reading this issue at this point in time.
I agree.
You know, and this is trash.
Yeah, which is why I said before our recording that I have no defense for the Marauders part of the story because literally there's no defense. I mean, she appears only once. And then it's tacked on, you know, this baggage on her and the reason why, you know, there's no reason for it. And that I 100% agree with Fariha with that, you know, her eye roll and expression is like, why? You know, yeah. Because this is a brand new, this is literally a brand new character. She's
been in an issue ever.
Yeah. And that issue is not even like in the main run. It is a backup story in a reprint of Uncanny X-Men, right? So this is
which we loved, and you can see that on our Epic X-Men reread here on the channel.
Yeah. So I mean, so that part I have no defense for it, but I mean, so the only defense I can think of for Wilhelma story is because there's a lot of seed on the UK fallout, and then it turns out that her dad is in London. And the Cuckoos are in London right now. So I don't know if it is a trap to trap the Cuckoos there. But if that's the case, it brings another pet peeve of mine to the story. It's a plot of convenience because it's like, well, for that plot to work, the Cuckoos have to read her mind. And then the trap has to be sprung. And they have to know that the Cuckoo is going to read her mind beforehand. And so this whole thing, while it might be a little bit of a defense for this thing, still doesn't sit very well with me, which is why, you know,
part of me does wonder, like, is Duggan doing something else because no one can be this stupid to do it this upfront? But as I just said, this is the issue you gave us, and we're going to judge it on those merits.
Mm-hmm. And also, I think, again, I just think it's really important to draw this distinction in both of these stories. You can tell challenging stories. There can be things that are upsetting. You can use these themes no matter who you are in the world if you make it worth it in the story and don't do it in an exploitative way. Mm-hmm. But here we're taking a young girl who's a villain, pretty rare in general, and instead of kind of giving her a villainous motivation or more of a character, right? And Free keeps saying, why could this not be one of the boys? We play on this very after-school special, hand on the doorknob, looming adult figures in the room. Now, this could be spun in that, like, really it's some cult thing or whatever, and had nothing to do with, abuse. It had to do with, like, getting her to do something, go steal animals from the zoo for them. Like, you could say that they were just using that very kind of heavy-handed suspense and imagery, and maybe they're going to turn it on 10 the next issue, but these creators know what they're doing. Like, they know what these images evoke. It's the same problem I had with the plot about RAINN dying in Matthew Rosenberg's Uncanny X-Men. Like, you can't tell me that wasn't a trans panic plot, because it was literally a trans panic plot. So if you're going to evoke trans panic in your comic, if you're going to evoke, abuse of children in your comic, then you better own up to the fact that you're playing upon these issues to create dramatic tension and use them as a metaphor. But I want to, and I don't think there's a lot of defense of that. Even if it turns out to be like a really sudden turn to really go in a different direction, like Tyler's suggesting, I still don't think that forgives this issue, because it's being used in a sensationalized and Free's like, or it could be the mom. Why is it got to be the dad? But here's the thing:
be nice to these characters, my God.
It's always, you don't use these plots in a sensationalized way. It's not that you cannot do a story about abuse. You don't roll out abuse like it's rolling out somebody winning a lottery. Okay, in terms of like unlikely things that can happen to a character that are much more likely in fiction. Now I want to talk about the Lourdes one though, because this is a little bit more nuanced. So this character, if you have not read the original classic X-Men backup, she was one of these very many Hellfire gals, but she was very close with Shaw. And she was a teleporter, and she was kind of part of their inner circle while the Hellfire Club still had a lot more human interaction. And the Sentinels get sent against the Hellfire Club at the same time they're kidnapping Scott and Jean, just prior to going to space, and then Jean coming back and becoming the Phoenix. And Claremont writes a truly brilliant issue of this as a classic X-Men backup. It was reprinted in Marauders last month, and it was art by John Bolton. I mean, it's brilliant. It's a brilliant Emma Frost issue. It's just fantastic. And we're led to believe that Lourdes dies. Here, the plot is that Lourdes lived, that Lourdes was being physically abused by Shaw, and that she wanted out, and that Emma saw the chance to get her out scot-free during the Sentinel attack, and that's what she perpetrates here. There's a couple of things I want to pull out, and I'm sorry that I'm kind of monologuing, but I want to make sure that we kind of cover the things that need to be covered, and please jump in if you need to jump in here. So one of the things is that when you create these abuse stories in comic books, that then becomes the thing that all readers center upon in their interpretation of the character forever. And I'm not doing this to say, poor Shaw. I'm doing this to say, you now, much like Hank Pym is always the guy who slapped his wife, Shaw has eternally become the guy that punched Lourdes in the face. Now, maybe Duggan has decided, you know what, Shaw has been bad enough and people are coming to his defense enough that I want to kind of say the quiet part loud and make sure that this is said. But this now is a comic book plot forever. You can't walk it back. So Lourdes now has been involved, I know, Harry, I see you, has now been involved in the kind of economy of women suffering. And so now Lourdes is always going to be this abuse victim who got herself out by working with other women. We're going to get to that in a second. And Shaw is always going to be not just textually a terrible person, but now technically, and specifically an abuser. And Freya says Shaw actually loved her. It made him a better character. And I completely agree with that. So
are you saying that the abuse plotline with this character was introduced in this book and was not in Claremont's run?
Yes.
No. I mean,
right.
there was only there was one
he
panel.
treated her badly in the
there was one panel.
Punch her in the eye.
There was one panel where Shaw held her neck and said that because she's like, oh, I don't know I can teleport this many people this far, and Shaw just pushed, held her neck and said that, well, you have to do it. That one panel.
But the idea
that's
of her
just
having
Shaw.
Black eye is not.
No black eye, no hint of that.
This book sucks, man.
Yeah. So here's the other half of this. And I have to say that whenever there's one of these tough topics, I really do go out and read a lot of critical sentiment before going on the show, which maybe is cheating. And Comics XF had a really good discussion of this. I have to highlight Andrea Ayer's comments about it specifically, which is like, because people defended it this way to me on Twitter. Well, yeah, but it turned into women helping women. The Cuckoos helped Wilhelmina, and Emma, helped Lourdes. No, that is part of this twisted economy of women suffering. A, because it's like, well, we can put more women suffering in the book if it rewards a woman. Guess what? You still put the first woman in the refrigerator if the other woman gets to open a refrigerator. And B, also, like, there's this thing about how, like, Emma becoming complicit in the power structure. Like, yeah, she saved Lourdes, but she still benefited for decades from that same power structure that she rescued somebody from. And it's just demeaning all around to all of these characters.
Remember Innocent is one where Emma was saying to that girl who works in the Hellfire Club that, oh, I don't do it because I am helping women. I do it because I want power.
Exactly.
So if you take that into account for this, this is not Emma helping a woman. This is Emma taking out someone so she can get to the top.
Power.
Yeah.
I think I don't consider myself like an uneducated reader. I'm trying to figure out like what Duggan was trying to say in this book beyond like just talking about the pain that like men inflict on women, but like it's executed so clumsily and stupidly and reductively. Like my least favorite book I think of all time is Identity Crisis, which is a book that just mashes real world topics onto, let's be real, cartoon characters, and you get this like mess of a result. And I just can't believe that all these years later that we're still doing stuff like this. Like I really still can't believe that this is what Duggan went with.
Yeah, I don't think there's much else to say. Tyler, anything else from you?
I don't have anything else.
Freya, anything else you want to draw our attention to?
I feel like every single Marvel woman has this back character of like being abused by men. And it's just very, very jarring. And given that every single Marvel history is canon, like you said, it makes it very, very awful. And even now in 2021, I just want to say, fuck that.
Yeah. Well, before we depart, I just want to highlight, I know that we have a lot of listeners in a lot of English-speaking countries and a lot of other countries, but for those of you who are in our primary markets, if you are experiencing or know someone who's experiencing domestic abuse in the US, there are a lot of resources for you, specifically the National Domestic Violence Hotline, and also RAINN, the Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network. And then also there is, I'll give the numbers for those, for the National Domestic Violence Hotline, it is 1-800-799-7233. For RAINN, it is 1-800-656-HOPE. If you're in Canada, Freya, help me with this a little bit. There's not a single nationalized resource, but if you're looking for the area by area resources, you can go to endingviolencecanada.org. In the UK, you want to go to refuge.org. They have a 24-hour national domestic abuse helpline. It is 0808 2000-247, or you can go to nationaldahelpline.org.uk. And there's also womensaid.org.uk. In Australia, you'll want to go to whiteribbon.org.au or to just dial 1-800-RESPECT. And in New Zealand, you can go to ruok.org.nz, or you can call 0800-456-450. That's been our discussion of Marauders number 22. And I just want to say that X-Men's better reading together because it creates community. And even when the X-Men comic books are horrible, the thing that we get from each other and the support we can give to each other as a part of that is the great thing that they gave us. The X-Men comics can be horrible for the rest of time. It doesn't matter. We still made the friends and the connections that we made by reading the X-Men comics. And that's why X-Men is better together. So thank you so much. And on behalf of Tyler, Harry, and Freya, we very much hope that you are well.